We are filming this. We are creating a little YouTube station for the district, so this presentation will also be online. If you tell people to go to the website and print, it's 44 pages. Tell them not to print. Tell them to just, if they want hard copies, we've made hard copies. I'd be glad to get hard copies to everybody. First, some of you have heard me explain this and thank Karen. Last year's budget book, and this is the material that we will present to the town in March once we have some solid figures and line-by-line items for each of our accounts. Last year was recognized by the CABE as the best budget book and budget information in the state. In fact, I have to tell this quick story because it was so good that when we went to the CABE conference to see our booklet there with its ribbon on it, you're supposed to bring 10 to 12 extra copies. So we brought the 10 to 12 extra copies, and by the end of the conference, they were all gone, and our book with the ribbon. Somebody actually took the book with the ribbon out with them. So I'm really glad that I took a picture of the book with the ribbon, because that's the only evidence that we have of that blue ribbon that I really wanted to display in the central office and maybe wear tonight. Pardon me?
No one has sent that.
No one has sent back. Keep the budget book, but leave the ribbon on the table, at least. I have to take just a minute to talk about our mission and stress the word partnership. Our school is a partner with this community, and education has changed dramatically, and you're going to see that in some future slides. But we're not just teaching academic content to kids now. We are developing students who are knowledgeable, responsible, and productive citizens. And that's a big commitment, not only on the part of our teachers, it's a big commitment on the part of the community. And I think you see this school as to how education is changing and the tools we're trying to give our students. But as partners with the community, we are really looking to the community to be involved in the budget. And I'm hoping that people will take the time to become familiar with the budget. I have several presentations that I'm doing this week to staff and faculty. Thursday, we have a morning session for parents. My Friday morning coffees. People who can't make it to those, I am willing to meet with people privately and explain any item that they question. When we complete the complete line items, line by line of everything that's in the budget, anybody that has a question is welcome to contact us. But also as partners, I am hoping that this community feels like the schools, especially this new building, is a good investment. And I expect people are hoping for a very good return on their investment as we begin this new venture into this building, which is just a few months away from being finished. But what I have to applaud, I'm kind of a person who walked in a year ago after the design was done. But this is a school that is designed not only to meet the needs of our best academic students, our best athletes. This is a school that is designed to meet the need of every single student and ensure every single student. As you walk around and get more familiar with the spaces, there's a lot for every single student in this building. And there's a lot for the community. And I am sincerely hoping that as we complete this, the town will take advantage of the auditorium, which seats 500. The T-Bell, which you can see is perfect for meetings and lectures and other presentations. Our library has flexible seating that's great for all sorts of meetings and presentations. And our new team room, which is one of the newest spaces to come online, which I've heard Rich refer to as the egg for its shape, is a great meeting room for 4 to 12 people. I know I'm going to move some of my meetings out of 94 Main Street into that room because it's just very conducive to meetings. And there is an outlet. They don't have a Keurig machine in the little room next to it yet, but I'll bring the Keurig machine over from the central office if that's what's required. But I want to take a minute to just go back and talk about the investments in this school and the return on investments. And I hope you'll take a little time to read through the narrative. I'm on page 5 of your document. But one of the exciting pieces of news that we got this summer was East Hampton High School being on the list of America's top high school, one of 16 schools in the state of Connecticut that were on that list. That's a tribute to our teachers, pre-K through 12. That's a tribute to our parents, and that's a tribute to the taxpayers of this community. And then, as Mr. Fiddler said just a few moments ago, in that same year, we just found out right before Christmas that we made the AP District Honor Roll. As a repeat honor roll, I think it was, this is the third time out of 7 years that the College Board has recognized schools for distinction in the AP exam. And that's an award that's recognized for increasing the number of exams offered at the school, increasing student participation, and increasing the score. So once again, another 400 or 500 students, schools recognized around the country, and East Hampton, one of 14 schools in the state of Connecticut. Now that's the return on investment by this community. This is a great place for students to be. Take a minute, for example, to look at page 6 in your handout. The slide is at the top. So just look at the last 5 years. We've gone from 129 exams taken by 75 students, and in a very short time, moved that up to 110 students taking 193 exams. If you look at page 6, you see the exams that the school is offering. And I've also listed future courses that we should be offering. We have the staff to offer these, and I look forward to increasing the number of AP test taking. AP courses are important for students going on to competitive college because the competitive colleges consider those standardized courses around the country. We can say that we have honors English and honors sophomore biology, but when the colleges look at standardized courses across states, they look at the students' AP scores because all of those syllabi are standardized. The tests obviously are standardized. So there's a lot of value in to be able to offer AP courses. But now look at the next slide because this is the money slide for us. If you look at the number of exams taken, the previous slide showed 110 students taking 193 exams. What we're seeing is 193 students, 193 tests taken, and 163 of those tests scoring the target score of 345, or what AP considers a passing score. And if you look at page 7 of the handout I gave you, in our district reference group, the number of total scores of 345, East Hampton is number 2 in the DRG, tied with Colchester for 84.4%. Now, these are the schools that the State Department of Education compares us to, and in our district reference group, number 2 for the percentage of students who are taking 345. Now, I would ask anybody in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, before you consider a private school, ask them what their percentage of students taking AP exams scoring 345. I do not think you would find this in a lot of schools. I am proud to stand up and tell any parent, I do not think you need to look at a private school if you've got East Hampton High School right in your own backyard. And then turn to the next page because 39 members of the class of 2016, or 39 of those 110 students, were recognized by the College Board as AP scholars. So 35% of our students taking the exams were recognized as AP scholars. And there's different level of AP scholars if you look at the middle of page 8. AP scholars, if you get three or higher on 3 or more exams. AP scholars with honor, 3.25 on all AP exams and scores of 3 or higher. And then AP scholars of distinction, you're scoring a nice number of students in each of those areas. And then just for information for families, a list of colleges that all of the students were attending. Not just accepted to, but these are the ones our class of 2016 started attending this fall. Let me talk to you about SAT scores for a minute. Flip to page 9. If you look at, again, the same district reference group, East Hampton's SAT scores, number 2 in the DERG for reading, high in writing, and a little bit lower in math. We know we've targeted math as an improvement area, but still above the state average, still above 500. I can't compliment what's going on enough in this high school, and again, a tribute to our teachers K through 12. Some of the other things that are value-added programs, right now we're recognizing the importance of safety in our school. Starting with the class of 2020, this year's freshmen, every student will have taken CPR and know how to operate an AED machine, and we've committed to making sure that as many of our staff as possible are trained by the year 2020. Our sports program, for those of you that didn't see it in the Middletown Press, January 3rd, senior Gianna Russell scoring her 1,000th career point in basketball. It's probably the highest honor for any high school student to score 1,000 points, 1,000 career points in basketball. Just to tell you how often this happens, I think she is the 14th, John, is that right? 14th student in East Hampton history to achieve this. 14th student in East Hampton history, just about number 14 to achieve this. It's a big deal, and it speaks to the quality of the program.
And she led the team to an astounding victory over Cromwell this evening.
Excellent, thank you very much. For those of you that had trouble finding parking, it's because everybody wants to see Gianna play now. So yeah, come to the games. But please, read the narrative that I've included in this handout just to get the information. I've given you the nice percentage of students that are involved in athletics. And it's crucial that our students not only be academically involved, but artistically involved, athletically involved, and participate in as many activities as they can in high school. And it's not just great things at the high school, but great things in all our buildings. The middle school, recognized as one of 3 schools in the state of Connecticut to have developed what they consider a model program in PBIS. A nice tribute to what's going on there. Our middle school students, one-to-one Chromebook technology, thanks to Chris and Jason and Rich, got together this summer and said, we are going to make this happen. And through our technology grant and moving a few Chromebooks around, every student picks up a Chromebook in the morning, brings it to class with them, and returns it to their homeroom at the end of the day. But we have one-to-one technology. Our goal is to have one-to-one technology in this building in the fall. This was one of the most exciting days of my career, and I urge you to read the information on page 12. We're seeing a drop down in the number of girls who are computer science, or women, who are computer science majors. And I think East Hampton High School is doing a great job at stemming that. We have a robotics and coding program that every student has access to. And this fall we had 20 principals from the Jilin province of China, and they were enthralled not only at the robotics, but at what the girls could do with the robotics. It's very exciting. And the opportunities that we're giving these young ladies to be as involved in codings and robotics. It's not just an after-school club for boys anymore. It's a critical piece of education. This is my favorite picture of the whole slide, of the whole presentation. I had the great fortune of attending the Center School dress rehearsal concert and to see 3 4th and 5th grade women trombone players just stand up and play their hearts out. It's, that's the quality of what's going on in our school. And there's a nice write-up on page 13 of some of the things that's going on in the center school. And if you turn to page 14, look at those youngsters cooperating, working with Chromebooks. Eventually we'll have one-to-one for them. Just a list of things that are going on in the Memorial School that are just outstanding for our families. I love that we've become a destination school for Chinese principals. The gentleman in the cap, right in the middle there, is a former State Department of Education, and every time now he has a group of principals in Connecticut, he calls me up because he's very proud to bring them here because he knows they're going to see great things. And I am looking forward to bringing teachers, students, and community members to China in April 2018. So more details to follow. But you can see with a commitment to this building, with a commitment to our schools that, as East Hampton turns 250, what a great celebration to have this school come online at the same time. We're certainly linked with the success of the community. And one of the most important things that we're doing is, it's nice to celebrate what you're good at, but looking forward to 10 years into the future now, not quite 10 years into the future, but 2025, what we want our education to look like in 2025. Nothing is stagnant, everything is moving, and to have a vision for the future of what we want. And, I encourage you to just read through page 16, some of the things that we are trying to do. When we develop our vision, we don't worry about budget. Sometimes budget gets in the way of your vision, but it doesn't mean that you make excuses and say, well, we don't have the budget to do this. We're going to find ways to do things. Which brings us to the slide tonight. The request that I am asking the Board of Ed to consider when you present this budget to the board is a 3.75% increase. As I was having meetings early in November and December, I said to the board and I said to the town council when we did a kind of a preview of where we were coming in, I was pretty confident that I could come in the low 2%. And right now that is not possible. There's a couple of things that are trending higher. We have the town and school is facing a dramatic insurance increase that is trending much higher than any of us would expect at this point. And there's a lot of unknown at the state level with education cost share dollars that I will share with you. If you look at this next slide, and I'm at the bottom of page 17, you can see that 3.75 kind of stands out along what we historically have been given. And, I have to tell you, with a 3 and then a 2.67 and a 1.80 and a 0.90 last year, I would love to tell you that with a 3.75% increase, I can cut from other things to bring that down to 2%. But over the years, we've made so many cuts just to get down to this figure last year. When I presented 1.9 to the community, I had hacked away at several accounts that may have provided a buffer here, but right now, with a downward trend, there's no safety valve. I can't say, well, we can cut $200,000 out of supplies and $200,000 out of equipment. Those accounts are dangerously low. I even cut them down to get to the 3.75. And here's the challenges this year. There's a lot of moving targets. And, I'm not saying that we can't make things happen, but understand when I'm presenting 3.75 to you, I'm trying to present a responsible budget. I would love to say 2%, but that would be irresponsible of me right now to stand up and say, we can make this happen at 2%. And I think if you start looking at page 18, I'll give you just a couple of those moving targets. The first moving target is special education costs. And this is for every district in the state. But right now, if you look at our trend, we always budget for what we know. And in September, this year we had 205 students come in who we were aware of. But understand that trend line shows us that by June, even though the number we start with in September is a certain number, it always shoots up as new students are identified. So knowing that we're at 205, we're anticipating the June number is going to be higher. So, when we budget, we are budgeting for the students that we know right now are special ed students. And also keep in mind, if you look at that box to the right, the East Hampton Public Schools have to oversee the IEPs and costs for all students in VOAG programs, magnet placements, and those numbers are not included in this chart. The number of IEPs that our special ed director goes to out of district, because we're responsible for those students, is a huge time commitment and dollar commitment to this town. Plus, VOAG and magnet programs, they charge us above the tuition for any special ed services. So if there's a one-on-one person, we're paying for the complete salary of that person. If there's speech and language assistance, we're paying for that at an hourly rate for every student that is required to have that. So all of our special ed students out of district, we are still responsible for those costs. The budget challenges from the state. I would love to hear the governor say, you know, Paul, we cut you $75,000 in ECS, but don't worry, we're going to cut 5 unfunded mandates. And somehow he cut the first part, but he didn't cut any of the mandates. And Karen Aceta has done a wonderful job. I've kind of just presented these on a slide, and I've presented these on a slide. Karen has put together a 4 or 5 page document that, as of now, is also on our website, just going into detail on every single one of these, the hours that we put into them, and costs associated with them. But look at the new ones that have come out, and you know, all of these are wonderful. But last June, just before we voted on our budget, the state cut $100,000 in our ECS funding, and this winter cut an additional $75,000, and yet we see there's new suspension, expulsion rules coming, there's new background checks that we're required to do, new graduation requirements, new Privacy Act, the CPR training, all of these good things, new courses of study, new attendance guidelines, but all of them cost a tremendous amount of money moving forward at a time when the state is cutting dollars. I think we have to say, you know, stop with the legislation that's producing these unfunded mandates. Here is as I said, the biggest budget mover, the budget target, the moving target. Right now, our insurance increase is projected at 25% or higher. When I did this slide last week, it was 25%. It could be as high as, having a hard time saying the number. It could be substantially above that. And your insurance increases even in a high deductible plan, which is for the town, the most cost-efficient plan to have for the employees. Your claims determine the next year's ratings. So even though we had great ratings down in here, our claims were low, you're only as good as your current year claims, basically. So the insurance company does not like to lose money, even if they've been getting money all these past years. Right now, at the 3.75% increase, I've budgeted a 20% increase in insurance. That's $800,000 over last year. If you turn back to the 3.75 and see that's $1 million increase, $800,000 of that is for insurance. If we figure that we could hope for around a 5 to an 8. $803,000 is about $500,000 above what we budgeted last year. So if you take 500 away from the million, you can see we would be in that 2% range. Unfortunately, because our budget increases have been low, I can't make up that 500,000 anywhere. We've cut that, and even to get to that 2%, we dug into some of those funds. So, we're left holding the burden right now of that insurance increase. Now, keep in mind, we have options. It's early in the season. We're meeting with our insurance brokers. We'll look at other carriers. We'll look at all sorts of possibilities for insurance moving forward. The complication is we're linked with the town, and we've all got to do the same thing on this. So the town is facing this same increase. So they're scratching their heads as far as what to do at this point. But here's the slide that starts to eat at you. Considering that the ECS, the education cost share, consider that the state of education considers education to be its responsibility. And about 25% of our budget comes from the education cost share funds. Now you can see that 2008, everything was level funded. Then we got some boosts last year between the $75,000 cut. I'm sorry, the initial $100,000 cut, we were down to 7.6. The 7.5 brings us down to 7.5. We are at a lower figure than we were back 6, 7, 8 years ago as far as this year's funding. Next year's funding is question mark. I would honestly rather have the governor say we're going to just freeze education cost share like we did back here, for a number of years, rather than redo the formula. Because we can't wait till July, August to find out how much education cost share dollars we're getting. We need to know, is that 7.5 our figure moving forward? If they redo the formula, which the governor has said is a possibility, I can't promise that it's not going to be less than that. I don't think it will be more. Right now, the way the education cost share formula was developed, East Hampton gets about 85% of what it should be getting based on the formula. And that puts us in a pretty good range. If we were getting 110, 120% like certain towns are, I'd be nervous about a cut. If we were getting 50, 60, 70%, which some towns are, I'd be excited about possibly getting more. I think we're right in that range where, we're going to take a hit, but it's not going to be a dramatic hit. But, consider even that $175,000 cut, that's 3/4 of a percentage point to us. So that 0.9 with 75,000 cut, now we're looking at really a 0.6 increase from this year's budget, from last year's budget to this year's budget. Anybody have any questions about? I could go on and on about this year's funding.
Can you just reiterate before we get any further?
Yes.
Go back a couple slides, and you have the 3.75 showing as proposed right now. With the $800,000 potential increase for insurance, 25% there. If the insurance was down to more reasonable, as it has been,
Yeah.
what would that 375 be? More of the 2.2-ish?
Yeah, so if you look at our history of insurance increases, last year's insurance increase was about a $300,000 budget, $300,000 increase. Right, Karen? About 300,000. I think we've already had this conversation, and I'm just. But it was about a $300,000 increase. So that's about $500,000 more than we would regularly anticipate. So you can see, take 500,000 away from $1 million at a 2.9 budget. You're really in the twos. We'd actually be below the twos, but just because I couldn't stand to put a 4 up there, we've made some deeper cuts into equipment. And like I said, our plan was to come into the low twos.
So without the insurance, fairly, we would be about 2.
Without the insurance, you would be at, my target budget this year was a 2.24 to present to you. And up until January 6th, we were at 2.24. My first round of this slide presentation, I said, Karen, we're at 2.24. I can sell 2.24 to anybody. How am I doing at selling 3.75?
Then you got the phone call.
And we got the phone call. So why 3.75? Well, I want you to understand that, first of all, it does honor the town council budget policy goals. They asked us to minimize new personnel and limit budget increases to meet contractual obligations. Not only are we minimalizing new personnel, to get to 3.75, we've cut positions. I'll go through those in a minute. Limiting increases to contractual obligations, if I did that, you would be at 5.25 right now if we wanted to just go with our contractual obligations. I don't feel I can stand here and say, hey, contractual obligations, we need 5.25. I'm trying to present to you the most responsible budget at this point. If you look at page, in your handout, page 22, here are the cuts to get to 3.75. We're going to have to reduce 1 teaching position at the Memorial School. I'll go through what those numbers look like in a minute. 1 certified math intervention teacher at the middle school. One of our administrator positions, the middle school assistant principal, we're going to cut that position from a 12-month position to a 10-month position. We'll reduce at least one non-certified staff position, probably 2 or 3. But I feel I have to present a responsible budget and tell you, as parents and board members and town officials, that I'm presenting to you a responsible budget that still has cuts, that still has reductions, but allows us to do what I consider our priorities. We're going to move forward. I'm not going to stand here and say 3.75 is the end of the world. This district will continue to excel. We will continue to move forward. And we're going to do it by offsetting some of the advances with some retirements that we know of. We're going to maximize our resources. We will look across every district. And obviously, we're going to identify priorities should we have a windfall of some dollars that come our way. I want to still make sure that we're earmarking those responsibly. So if you look at page 23, down at the bottom, what I've done is I've kind of broken up our budget requests. And if you went to our website in October and November, you saw the 150 items that people had requested. They were all listed as blue. I've broken them down now into green, as in go forward, yes. We all like green lights. Green means it's in the budget. Yellow means it's not there, but we'd really like it to be there. But anything you see in the yellow tier is not there. And the red tier, unfortunately, great suggestions by people, but they are just not in the budget this year at all. So the first thing moving forward that we have to include is we started the Go Math. We've looked at our high school scores, so our students are underperforming a little in high school. It's not tragic, but if our reading scores are 530, our math scores should be 530. Right now they're in the low 500s. And we know we've targeted SBAC as an area of improvement in math. So we've got to continue the math. For $46,000, we could have grades 6, 7, and 8 for 6 years. I'm recommending that we put $15,000 for grade 6. We'll start with the grade 6, and we'll move it up to 7 and 8 each subsequent year. We could do 6, 7, and 8 for 1 year at $15,000, but when you see what it costs over 6 years, it's not worth investing right now in 3 grades for 1 year. It'd be much wiser for us to do 1 grade for 6 years. The next area we're moving forward, you've heard me talking about this and John talking about this. The high school is going through its decennial accreditation. In March 2018, it's about a $35,000 expense for that entire process. The biggest bulk of the process being the money that we actually have to pay to NEASC. They'll send 16 educators and administrators that spend 4 days in our district writing the report, the cost for NEASC. It's about a $35,000 cost that we know we're going to have to bear next year. The school resource officer is still in the budget. This is something that we've been working with the town to secure. It helps the town and it helps us. It provides 1 more police officer in the town. That officer is housed at the school. And obviously if there's an issue in town, it can be taken away from the school and help out our police force. But certainly our schools would benefit from a school resource officer. But this is complicated. We've had conversations at the town council and board level already. There has to be funding in 2 budgets for this, in the town budget and in the school. The school owes about 70%. The town will pay about 30%. Our share is about $75,000 moving forward. And a minimal increase to a science teacher at middle school. As you can see, our biggest classes now are entering grades 6, 7, and 8 over the next 3 years. Last year, we reduced the middle school staff by 2 teachers. The only give back this year is $25,000 for a .4 science teacher. That brings us up to 4 science teachers at the middle school. One of the things we know if we're going to put 550 Chromebooks in this building is we need a technology support person here to help kids who come in with a Chromebook that isn't charged or needs a quick repair or something like that. And at the same time, we've talked about having our library open extended hours and to the community. We're kind of putting both of those positions into a part-time position, but we're going to find the funding for that by reassigning positions. So we're really looking to move forward but maximize our resources. So even though it's about a $25,000 increase, we're hoping to do this internally. And then we've talked extensively about this at other meetings, creating what we're calling the STARS program, supportive teaching for at-risk students. We have some students in our district who we want to keep here rather than costly outplacements. We even feel like we could bring back possibly 1 or 2 students for what we'll call a parallel program to our own program right in our buildings. We could do it at the center school and middle school. To hire new staff is an option, but right now we're going to try to do it by reassigning current positions. So we're going to move forward, and we're going to do it without cost if we can. So here's our green tier at this point. The middle school math text, the NEASC accreditation, the school resource officer, the .4 science teacher, the library tech position, $0 in the STARS program, $0, $150,000 increase. At this time, we have retirements that equal $150,000. So the only thing I'm daring asking for new, we are offsetting with known retirements at this point. And basically, that's all that is new in the budget. So when the town council asks us to minimize new positions, I think we're certainly honoring that, and we're countering it with positions going out. If you look at page 27, there's a better description of each of those green tier items. The yellow tier items, and I have to stress, as much as I look at these suggestions that came to us at the October and November meetings by our staff, by our parents, right now, these are not in our budget. If there was any chance of finding budget money for these items, we would put these. If there was funding in the budget, these are some of the things that we would put in. Everything from an additional teacher at center school, because our class sizes are large at center school, an additional guidance counselor here, increasing our successful music teacher at the high school, who right now is 0.6. We'd love to bump them up to 0.8. I've talked to you from the day I arrived in town about world language at the elementary level. People made impassioned pleas to increase the number of students who were able to be involved by having JV or freshmen or second teams at the high school in these areas. Our board members are passionate about financial literacy. We've talked about increasing stipends. We've talked about adding programs and technology programs and after-school programs throughout our district, etc. And I urge you to read the descriptions of those on page 29 and 30. The reason I even have a page with the red slide is a lot of people took the time to express to us what they really wanted in the budget. And all of these worthy things, and if you look at page 31, and 32, and 33, all of the things that people requested in the budget, I felt they deserved a place in our budget narrative, but we are not going to be able to put them in next year's budget. And as you look through those, none of those are pipe dream positions. All of those are very worthy positions. Let me go back to a minute, because as we identify our priorities, we're looking at our current elementary class sizes, and even these numbers at the bottom are in flux because we still have families enrolling. I think center school just got a new student today. Tomorrow they're coming. So, and I know Memorial School, these numbers are lower than what the most recent number is at Memorial School. And you can see these are classes of 20 in kindergarten and 23, but when you get up to grade 4 and 5, we're now looking at 26 through 28 and 24 and 23. In the 3.75% budget, now you're seeing consistent 27s in grade 5, you're seeing 23s and 24s in grade 2. We have the option based on what projected 120 students coming in, whether we do 6 in K or 7 in K and 6 in 1 or 7 in 1. Ideally, in a community like this, you should have no class sizes over 21, 22. And you can see we're losing that pretty quickly. So take a minute, and I'll finish up with these last couple of slides, because I think it's important for us to look at, start on page 36 of your handout. I don't know if you can read this well. A lot of towns around us are experiencing declining enrollment. Our neighbor to our south, East Haddam, over 4 years, their numbers are 14.4% lower. In East Hampton, they're actually just a little bit higher. So, we do the enrollment projections each year, and while we see numbers, in the next 10 years dropping, they're not dropping significantly, and our history shows that they're really not dropping at all based on the projections you got in the last 4 years. You've stayed pretty steady from 2012 through 15-16. If you look at your numbers in the elementary schools, your biggest numbers right now are here. And so these students going through grades K1 and 2 and 3 still have another 10 years in our district, and these classes now are higher than the numbers in the high school. So our enrollment is not dropping down. But if you look at the next slide, here's the per pupil expenditure, a 4-year difference. So you would expect if your enrollment went down that your cost per student might go up. But 24.3% is a pretty drastic increase for a town that's gone down 14%. These are all local towns, and we picked these two towns, enrollment and the per pupil expenditure. All of these towns, none of them are regional school districts, and all of them have their own high school. So we picked kind of local towns that were similar to us. Our own high school, we're not a regional school district, we don't have kids coming from other towns, but you can see our pupil expenditure from 2012 to 2015-16, you're actually lower than you were 4 years ago in the dollars per student. I think that's a pretty significant price. A pretty good statistic considering, the accolades that your school is earning. You're maintaining a pretty stable cost to this community. I hit the wrong button. Okay, I'm glad I didn't have to reboot the whole computer. Now, if you turn to page 37, let's just take 2 years, 14-15 to 15-16. These are the schools in our district, in our DERG. I'm sorry, no, I went ahead one. These are the schools in our district reference group. All those schools that I compared our SAT scores to and our AP score results. In 2 years, 14-15 to 15-16, the average state increase in per pupil expenditure is 4%. You can see other towns in our DERG going up higher. East Hampton, 0%. It's actually $71, but statistically, that's a 0% increase. If you want to see the dollars, look at the bottom of page 37. I've broken it down town by town so you can see the dollars. If you flip the page, it'll even break it down a little further, showing you where we rank in per pupil expenditure compared to the median income of these exact same towns. So, for example, second highest median income, but you're way down at about 16th. This year, you were 14th last year, you dropped 2 slots in per pupil expenditure. Once again, considering the accolades, we are a pretty good value to this community. Now, local schools, same type of thing. So these are our local schools. Once again, a 4% state average, and East Hampton at a 0. So if you look at our neighbors, Portland, Colchester, they're at least going up 2 and 3%. Glastonbury 4%, East Haddam 5%. District 13 is Coggin-Chog, Middlefield, Durham. District 17 is Haddam, Killingworth. And the same type of thing on page 39 and 40. I've broken those down by exact dollars if you like to look at math figures. One of the things we're doing, and I have to credit Karen for this, is we are partnering with East Haddam as much as possible for cost-saving results, to the point where East Haddam is actually paying a portion of Karen's salary for the work that she's doing overseeing the food services. Our cafeteria manager also oversees a portion of East Haddam's cafeteria. So we're working to regionalize and save as much money where it makes sense. We don't need to talk about capital tonight. This has been a previous meeting. We know attention has to be paid to the center school boiler. Don was next door with rusty steam pipes that make a great show and tell. We're living on borrowed time on this boiler. And then our other capital priorities, the Chromebooks, security upgrades, not at the high school. The building project will cover that. But we need to do security laminate on all ground floor glass. We've done one phase of that. There are still 2 more phases to make sure that our children are safe in their buildings. And then obviously we need some wireless upgrades as we continue to use more and more Chromebooks. But ladies and gentlemen, here's why we're doing this. Upper right-hand corner, David Sadler, member not only of Eastern Region and the New England Band, but he was a member of the National Concert Band this year. These are 2 winners at the state level for the Invention Convention. One of these young ladies went on to Washington, D.C. to compete in the National Convention Invention. Today we were just notified that one of our art students in the middle school was recognized with a Silver Key Award at the most prestigious art competition in Connecticut, and we'll be bringing her to meet you. But this is why I stand up here and say, you know what, we need 3.75% to continue doing what we're doing. This is probably one of my favorite pictures in our district. Here's how we educated students in 1866. 150 years later, we brought our 5th grade students over to the original center school and had them duplicate this picture. But times have changed. What we need to give these students is very different from what this community gave students in 1866. This is not our classrooms. And a lot of people say to us as we go to the budget meetings, when I was in school, I didn't have a Chromebook and I turned out just fine. But yeah, you did for your future. But that's not our children's future. The future is very different for our children, and this is after the trombone players in 5th grade. This is my favorite slide. This picture is our middle school students with their one-to-one Chromebooks. This is the Chromebook. They get the same Chromebook every day. I said to Mr. Lehman, get a picture of our students using their Chromebooks. And right now, you know, these students, they got what they needed, and right now, I can say that our students are getting what they need. But understand, what they need right now is persistent self-control, curiosity, self-confidence. Look at those faces. There is some self-confidence in that picture. That should make every single person in this audience happy. But we can't let people say, what I got for an education was fine for me. These kids need something completely different. I am urging people to get very involved in the budget. In fact, if it's an inconvenience for you to come to any of our meetings, between the Board of Ed meetings, between the Superintendent Advisory Council meetings, between the coffee mornings, I am willing to drive to your home. I will bring this presentation to your home. I can plug into your smart TV and give you this presentation in the comfort of your pajamas. So please, don't say that the budget is not transparent if you haven't had me in your living room. At least give me a chance to. I'll even bring the coffee. I'll bring the coffee. And I'm hoping that down the road, even though 3.75 is high, and you know, I'm telling you 3.75 in January, it may change as time goes on and we get a little bit more information. But this year, in the year of the bifurcated budget, we've got to make sure that we have parents excited about supporting what's going on in our schools. Does anybody have any questions?
Wow.
So please, over the next couple of weeks, Karen will have on the webpage the line by line. If you want to know how much we're spending in supplies for 7th grade science, you will be able to find that on our budget. So please go to our website. This presentation is on the website. The presentation with an explanation of every single slide is on the website. I will be emailing this presentation to every single family in the school district. We will give links on our Facebook page so that everybody in town can access this. I urge you to encourage people to read what our budget factors are this year.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.